Минулого тижня у місті Guelph ми відвідали виставку чудових праць місцевого художника Тараса Лachowського. Праці зводять в одне традиції і символіку української творчості писанок, вишиванок і сучасних витинанок. Виставка продовжується на протязі місяця квітня у Gallery 10 Carden у місті Guelph і чудово представляє, як далі покоління українців в Канаді не лише зберігають, а й в сучасний спосіб розвивають українську культурну спадщину в Канаді.
We're a membership-based charity here in Guelph, and we have a membership of independent artists and arts organizations, and we support them through promotions and communications, professional development, and just making connections with between artists and arts organizations and audiences here in the city, so that people can get to know what's happening in the arts community.
Gentleman, when I was setting up the show, was banging on the window to come in and check out one of the artworks. So he ended up coming in. I let him in. We had our masks on, and he got so close to the glass that he almost had his nose right on the glass, and then realized they're all hand cut. Because prior to that, he says they look like they're just computer generated, but they're not.
Taras is one of our members at Guelph Arts Council, and it's been a pleasure to get to know him and his work, which is just incredible, detailed and so inspired by his own Ukrainian heritage, and yet for anyone really would be such a beautiful, joyful, colorful addition to anyone's art collection.
Like there must have been something special happening somewhere that got you off on all this.
But what got me about it? As a kid, I remember Mom and Tata came, settled in Portage first. We would go out to visit Tata's, our Baba and Tita out in Portage, and then we'd go to the Dauphin Ukrainian Festival. And that was a really cool experience as a kid, with the mountains and everything behind everybody dancing and singing the Kozaka, and understanding that this is your culture too. It's not just being Canadian, but being Ukrainian Canadian, you have like the best of both worlds. And that's a big thing.
То ідея для цих робіт прийшла з такої, можна сказати, ф'южн витинанки, вишивки і писанки.
I call them vytinanka because vytinanka means cut paperwork. It's done in Ukraine, it's done in Belarus, it's done in Poland predominantly. It was something that I didn't grow up with. I had grown up knowing about pysanka and seeing Ukrainian embroideries, the vyshyvka. What I do with that technique is I take the symbols from pysanka and from the embroideries, and I make paper patterns out of them. I have those papers printed, then I take those papers and I collage them, I hand cut them, and then I adhere them in a collage technique, or in Europe what they call decorative paper technique, with layers to create what is called like a graphic work. All right, so if somebody sees something and says, oh, that looks like grapes, I'm like, well, in Christian, yes, grapes. In Ukraine, we would say that's a kalena, or a high bush mountainberry. Very different symbolism. Within the layers of the colors, and the colors having different meanings, there's this repetitive pattern that seems to come across with Ukrainians and how they work aesthetically. And that's a big part of how I do these pieces.
Taras has been very busy in the pandemic, making a lot of work, and it's wonderful to have the opportunity to show it in this space.
Цей раз я за Малфар зачинав такий graphic works, як лечто по-англійськи. The Malfars. What I've done is, in my previous show I was doing something called Sridome, which is old thoughts. And I examined the history of mermaids, of forest spirits, of water spirits within Ukrainian culture, such as feya, which are fairies. And I kept hearing about Mulfar. And for me, it intrigued me because I'd never heard this term before. Doing, again, a lot of research, I found out that molfars actually do exist. They're actually real people. And for me, that was super exciting because a lot of friends that I have are into, reading Lord of the Rings. They're into science fiction. We have our own kind of fantastical people within our own culture, one of them being molfar. There are Hutzal people that live in the mountains that make use of the natural elements, pre-Christian, pagan, and Christian motives, beliefs, in order to help people help themselves and to help cure people of certain things. This for me is really exciting because, again, it shows that Ukrainian spirit of people who are doing something for others just based on who they are or what they are, and not looking at it as a means to an end. They're not in it to accumulate wealth or power. The one thing that astounded me about the molfar was the transcendental beauty of how they present themselves. Whenever I have seen a molfar in presentation, the vyshyvky, the embroideries, the beadwork, the leatherwork, the metalworks completely astound me. And to know that that's in Europe. I have a friend that I've befriended on, and I've met at the Blue West Festival. His name is Yuri Bielak. He's a Hutzal photographer based in France. Everybody's nodding, everybody knows Yuri. And I saw his photographs of the Hutzals, and when I was talking with him, he was saying how astounded people were in Europe to find that this kind of aesthetic was present within Europe. And this is what I'm finding with the molfars. What they present a lot of times is themselves physically in everything that is Ukrainian. And that for me is extremely overpowering. Aesthetically, artistically, visually, and spiritually. It's a whole package from them. Some of the symbols that I use. There's kalena, there's verbik, there are, it's the old sun symbol in behind, marigolds, periwinkle, and I just incorporate them. And the richness of the colors is something that I get a lot from the embroideries or even from Ukrainian kileme. They astound me. Ukrainian kileme are one of the most beautiful pieces of woven works that I've ever seen. And just the colors, the intensity of the colors, the use of the symbolisms, and how there's something that people have in their homes. This is what astounds me when I'm doing these works. One, I do a lot with dill, krip. I make this joke to myself. It's like, Ukrainians знають як кухарите і знають як ворожити з тим теж. So you're not only cooking with these things, you're also using them to perhaps cast healing spells. That's something that I think is the duality of Ukrainian culture. You're happy, you're content, and yet you know how to live life. Ми любимо колір, широкі кольори. Ми не маємо страх від кольору. Ми маємо любов життя, що то є бути веселе, що то є бути українське. Правдиве, що наша історія є старша історія, навіть що ми мешкаємо тут в Канаді, чи Америці, чи Саут Америка, чи Африці навіть, що ми не забули то, що звідки ми прийшли.
Виставка продовжується на протязі місяці квітня у галереї 10 Garden у місті Guelph і чудово представляє, як дальші покоління українців в Канаді не лише зберігають, а й в сучасний спосіб розвивають українську культурну спадщину в Канаді. Якщо дозволять нові правила обмежень, зустрітися з митцем Тарасом Ляховським можна буде на вихідних кожної суботи та неділі від 12 до 5 години в галереї 10 Garden.